One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. So let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads, feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free.
They're back.
What up, though? 7 days, and we're back again for another episode of Dominant Effect. I'm Archbishop. We got Mike Ball and Aaron Olinger. What's up, everybody? Glad you were able to tune in. We're going to hit another story that we're going to knock out the ballpark like we do every week. But before we jump into it, like always, we check to see what everybody been into for the week. So we're going to start with you, Aaron. What's up with you, brother? How was your week?
I had a funeral for my friend was today, so I had to go to that. That was depressing. But outside of that, I've got a gun show next weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I'm coming out of my slow period, starting to get back into the holiday season, which brings the shows back around and brings the volume back. So I'm looking forward to getting out of this slow period right now. And I'll stop there.
Man, I'm sorry that you you said something about your going to a funeral. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Terrible. I hate going to them, honestly.
Me too.
Yeah. Anyways, for me, it's been actually a fairly decent week. A lot of my friends have popped in and we've been able to, I was telling Aaron this behind the scenes. He was like, "How you doing, man?" And I really appreciate when people are genuine like that. And I was like, man, like, truth be told, like, my circle, like, my personal life is amazing. The only stress that I have really is when I do this kind of stuff, right? And knowing and actually understanding what's happening around the world is scary to an extent, you know, and it puts a lot of stress on anybody, right? So, but yeah, I do my absolute best to just enjoy life with people that I love and appreciate.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on here lately. Seems like every day is something new that tops what went on the day before. But
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why we're on here, is to be able to pull it up and let people know exactly what's going on, dealing with a lot of this stuff that we know mainstream really is not going to talk about. So, but for the week, everything was good. Like I said, working like always, trying to get this this movie, Born Protector. We're supposed to start at the end of the month.
Man, that's going to be so rad.
Yeah, we got just about everything done. Couple little things here and there that we need to touch up on, but other than that, everything's good. Lawful ones. I was talking about last week. We still had some scenes to do. All of those are done, and it was sent off. So that's going to be a mini series that's should be out here in the next couple months. That's going to be a really good one. But we got a lot of stuff going on right now, and like I said, there's a lot of hustle and bustle, but it's a lot of work behind it, but it's going to all pay off on the back end. So
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's righteous work.
Right. So all you want that I email, the text, and ask questions or whatever, I appreciate you. The ones that sent the message saying that they were praying for me, I appreciate you. You know what I mean? And continue to do that. Send one up to the big guy for me so I can continue to do what needs to be done here. But so as of the story that we're going to jump in today, and today we're gonna be diving into the question that's been kind of lurking behind the headlines, and that question is: are we being set up for World War III? Now, the mainstream media gives a fragmented coverage. I mean, it shows a little bit of Ukraine here, a little Taiwan there, a little Venezuela,
And a lot of Israel.
really don't know what's going on with that. You know what I mean? We do, but, according to them, we don't. Military coups in Africa. But what if these aren't just isolated events? What if they're all a part of a large global shift that could be leading us towards the next World War? So today we're going to be connecting the dots. Military is on the move, economics being reshaped, alliances shifting, and the silence that's going on here in the U.S. media about what's really happening. So today, along with Aaron and Mike Ball here, we're gonna take a deep dive into this. So buckle up, because this is gonna be a pretty interesting show. Also, doing this, I'm gonna be asking some questions on here. So you ones that's watching, you know the answer, type it in there. Type it in there what your opinion is. I mean, because
Even if you don't know the answer,
Right.
let us know what you
your
think.
opinion is going to be. Yeah, because a lot of this stuff is a lot of the questions that I'm gonna ask are really opinionated. So put in what you think it is. So so the first part we're gonna be hitting, which is the first segment, is gonna be NATO versus the U.S. military buildup. Is what I'm gonna hit first. So so NATO has a expansion timeline. So ever since the early 1990s, NATO has nearly doubled its size, adding a lot of the former Warsaw Pact and Soviet states. You got Poland, Hungary, the Baltic states, etc. But recently, you had Finland that joined in 23. You had Switzerland that joined in 24. Now, why does that matter? It matters because Russia sees NATO on its borders as an existential threat. And Moscow's narrative is that NATO promised in the 90s that it wouldn't expand east. Contested, but it's been further contested by the West. but it kept expanding. Now, the U.S. role in this is that every new NATO member means new U.S. troop deployments, weapons, and sometimes missile defense systems, etc., which Russia frames as being a encirclement. So the risk of that is that Russia's invasion of Ukraine, for instance, is partially justified to the Kremlin as more of a propaganda by preventing NATO's creep into Ukraine. And NATO's expansion gives Moscow more excuses to lead on this aggravation. As we've said before, Ukraine has been nothing but a proxy war from the beginning. And we've been picking that apart numerous times on the show. But the historical parallel to this is that imagine the Cuban Missile Crisis in reverse. Russia setting up bases in Mexico and Canada, and so that's how Russia views what's going on with NATO today. So what do you think about this, Aaron?
Well, I think you're exactly right. NATO just recently made a motion where they moved closer to Russia by opening a new headquarters in Finland itself, which shares a border with Russia. And that base is to oversee, plan, command, and control land defense in the north. So that's actually a strategic base for command and control. And Russia's response was to expand and add more bases and move troops more to the border of Finland, because on that northern flank, they're being surrounded. That makes Iran that much more of a vital thing for Russia to help and control, because if we can destabilize Iran or defeat Iran, then Russia will lose its sovereign flank to the United States and to NATO. Russia has been flying drones into Poland and Sweden's airspace, mapping out things, checking the amount of forces that have been moved up. We got Russian subs off the coast of the United States right now. Russia's nuclear forces are all on alert. Germany, France, Britain, etc., are preparing to fight Russia at this time, and Russia sees it. And the encirclement that you spoke about is definitely happening. North, west, and I say south, we're moving forces into position in case we have to go in. And Russia also has basically drawn a line in the sand on the Tomahawk cruise missiles. They made it clear this week, as of October 8th, that there will be retaliatory threats are being made against the U.S. U.S. will provide U.S. cruise missiles to Ukraine. That's been decided. Russia said that they're not only going to destroy those cruise missiles and their launchers, but they will find a way to retaliate against Washington that's going to hurt. They're also claiming that the momentum for the Ukraine peace deal has failed, and they blame the U.S. Because of these Tomahawks. Now, right now, currently on the war front, both sides are losing 5,000 to 8,000 men a week, which that battleground has to smell like just rotted corpses out there, because there's no way they can be burying them that fast. Russia's also moved today to formally exit the landmark U.S. plutonium disposal pact. Instead of disposing of the plutonium, we can make more nukes with it. So they moved out of that today, and the Russian state TV threatened to bomb NATO countries over the Tomahawk missiles. And if we give those Tomahawks to Ukraine, because of the extended range that those missiles have, there would be no safe zone left inside of Russia where people can migrate to that would be out of range of weapons. The U.S. Tomahawks puts not only Russia's military bases, but also their Navy within Ukrainian reach. I mean, where they moved their Navy to that was out of missile range, they're back in range at that point. But Russia also said today that they know the use of Tomahawks will have to use U.S. personnel and U.S. satellite technology. So they said they're going to retaliate against Ukraine and the U.S. And when Zelensky said today that he will use the Tomahawks immediately upon receiving them, Russia said somebody better tell Ukraine that Russia has nukes that bomb shelters will not protect you from, and somebody better tell the United States the same thing. So this is no joke from the way this is lining up right now. But I'll stop there.
And real quick before before I get into my thoughts on NATO, real quick, we got Agrillipus coming in and dropping 5 gifted memberships, bro. That's huge. Thank you very much, kind sir. That not only helps me, but it helps people in the Breakfast Club, man. So I'm very appreciative. And Mick also says for $4.99, he says, y'all gonna have me freaked out before I go to sleep. Shit. Yeah, I know. I get you, bro. Being keen to the situation is not very settling. Two regards of NATO. This is kind of the fun thing about that, what I speak on my show regarding NATO. NATO is something that is such an unnecessary thing now. I look at, okay, maybe with a different mission statement, maybe a different, whatever the case is, but times have changed since the Soviet Union. And, understanding the amount of what they take and basically abuse. NATO is insane. The amount of money that goes into NATO is astonishing. I think just the U.S. last year was $1 trillion, or it was $1 trillion going to NATO, which is insane to me. When we could be using that for so much better, but yet we're sending $1 trillion to support this bullshit. Nonetheless, I say defund the UN, defund NATO, defund all the bullshit around the world. These are just organizations to be able to take from different countries and really give lackluster results. Real quick, Steven Stahl comes in for the $5, by the way. Watch for sneaky China. Yes, sir, that's very true. Thank you, sir, for that. I very much appreciate you. You can always insert your guys' thoughts, by the way, by Super Chat, so I appreciate you guys.
Go ahead, Aaron. What was you going to say? Bro?
I want to add something to that. As of October 8th, and I'm going to say this happened in the last 48 hours, when the decision was made to give Ukraine the Tomahawks, it was because Trump became frustrated over Putin. He says he negotiates with Putin. Putin sits down in good faith to negotiate a deal. Putin says, yes, we have a deal. And then within 24 hours, Putin attacks Ukraine with some sort of massive attack and then continues to escalate. So Trump got frustrated and said that we're going to go ahead and give the Ukrainians the Tomahawks because Putin's not negotiating in good faith. And then on top of that, we're making Russia feel pressure because we're running military games with NATO and we're running them close to the vicinities and areas that they want to move troops up to, but they don't want it to be seen as offensive. We're just running military games, but we got our forces here we're going to attack you with or defend ourselves with, and we're strategically placing them in the area. So that they know what they're doing, and Russia's feeling the pressure. And, we've talked on the show before that sooner or later you back someone into a corner, sooner or later someone's going to come out swinging, and Putin's the kind of guy that would come out swinging. So I'll stop there.
Okay, so I'm going to get to this question here. Okay, but so NATO's expansion isn't always about defense anymore.
No.
It's about encirclement. Now,
Right.
them countries that's on Russia's border have been pulled in, and now Moscow views as being a direct threat. Now, each new member means that the U.S. military bases, missiles, troop presence, everything from the West is getting a little bit closer, which kind of makes that like a pressure cooker type environment. So my question to you two is this: is this expansion really a defensive strategy, or is it provocation?
I would go to say that it's actually both. we're threatening without openly using the words. We're letting him see through our actions that the threat is there. We're putting pressure on. We're even putting sanctions on him economically to try to hurt his economy. We've got him where he can't hardly trade oil around the world except for Iran and China. And, you know, the BRIC Alliance, of course, is still buying the stuff. But we're shutting down trade. And we talked on this show before that all conflicts usually start with a currency war, then it goes to a trade war, and it goes to a real war. Well, we're seeing all three happen simultaneously right now. We're seeing a currency war with the Chinese yuan. We're seeing a trade war between these other countries and the US. And we're slowly escalating into the real deal here. It can be defensive if we're going to sit back and wait for Russia to make the first move. I like to think that NATO will wait that long, but it's going to be like a coiled spring ready to strike. As soon as that provocation happens and Russia responds, they're coming about with everything they got because they know in the long run, chip trade and everything that we need for our sophisticated weapons will come to a halt, and we won't be able to rearm certain type of weapons once we run through our current supply. So I'll stop there for right now.
Yeah, to the question of the that you bared there is I look at this as like just a numbers game. Ultimately, I look at it as 100% numbers game, not only on a numbers basis off of just pure people and your quote unquote armies, but I look at this as just a huge cash infusion for itself. Essentially, I think that they're always going to look out, just like for any other economic thing. They're going to look out for the betterment of themselves and look for expansion. And they're going to come up with every reason in the book why they need to expand and why they need to take over something like Sweden and all these different countries that have been known for these middle ground places. It's kind of interesting watching it. And I think that's a great question that you asked. And I do agree with Aaron as well that it can be absolutely both on this.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Okay.
what I think on that one is, I think it's provocation disguised as defense.
Yes.
Now, okay, now think about this. If Russia and China went to Mexico or Canada and set up bases, the U.S. would lose their fucking mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yet NATO's doing it, and you saying that you're doing it out of defense. You see what I mean? So, to me, that's a double standard. Now, if you really don't want that smoke for real, do we keep pushing it? Why do we keep poking the bear? You know what I mean? So, like in one sense, we're saying that we're helping out Ukraine, but I mean, last I checked, we got a lot of, I mean, not just us, but NATO has a lot of troops around them borders just waiting to be able to step over and do something. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And it's been like that. I mean, it's been like that for what, year and a half, almost 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They've been waiting for the instance to do that. Now, like I said, if they had done that same thing in Mexico or Canada, everybody would be in an uproar about this. You know what I mean? But like, of course, we the police of the world. You know what I mean? So it's like, do as I say, not as I do type situation that we got going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But being the fact that we are talking, oh, go ahead, man. I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot you had your finger.
I
What was
I
you-
want to show clear evidence of what you were saying when you say encirclement theory. Now, on a past show that we had here, we showed where Iran is bracketed on the east and west sides of their nation by U.S. military bases. Now, I'm going to use a clear example of China as an example. Right now, we're doing what we call island chain strategy, and that's where we surround China with military bases. We got the semicircle on the front in the Pacific surrounding China. We have Guam, bases in Guam, Okinawa. We have Camp Humphrey in Korea, which is the largest U.S. base outside the United States. In fact, we have 73 bases inside South Korea. So we're on that side of that flank with
I didn't know it was that many. Damn.
I looked it up today just
That's
to be sure.
crazy.
Okay. We have 123 military bases across Japan. All right. We have 9 active military bases in the Philippines. The entire Pacific Ocean is under U.S. control through its bases. And we can project power through our carrier fleets. And we keep a check on China through trade partnerships and military bases. There's an area down around India. So we're trying to be on good terms with India right now that extends around to the Philippines, and it's a strait. And China ships a lot of trade through there. And we're trying to get on good terms with India so that we can have some military down in that area that would restrict that trade and could put a stranglehold on the great dragon of China. So as you can see, we're encircling China as we speak, and sooner or later, China might come out swinging because we're choking them off. But that's a clear example of island chain strategy where you surround China with bases. NATO is surrounding Russia right now. We have Iran bracketed, and I'll just stop there. Everybody should get the point of what I'm saying.
Real quick, I just want to thank Allegedly for 11 months as a member, man. That's humongous. Thank you for sticking with me for 11 months, man. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Go ahead, AB. Sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna jump into this. We're gonna jump into this this China-Russia alliance. So the first thing I'm gonna talk about is energy trade. So China has massively increased its purchases of Russian oil and gas since the sanctions came from the West. Payments are often in yen and pretty much trying to bypass the dollar, which of course brings on the BRICS. And we'll get into
Which
that
is why it originally scared me, because BRICS, as we know, trade wars go into real wars, right? So exactly.
So then you have the military cooperation. So they've been holding joint naval drills in the Sea of Japan and the South China Sea, doing bomber patrols, military tank transfers. Then you have the shared enemies, of course. Both nations oppose the U.S. dominance, of course. Beijing wants Taiwan, Moscow wants Ukraine, and both back each other because of the narratives dealing with the UN. Now, why is this so dangerous? Because for decades, the U.S. strategy relied mostly on keeping Russia and China at bay and keeping them separated. Now you got Washington sanctions that has kind of forced them to make this alignment with each other. And that two-front challenge, you got Europe plus the Pacific, stretches out to the U.S. forces. So a couple weeks ago, a U.S. general, I forget exactly what was his name. I forget exactly what his name was. But anyway, he said something to the effect that a nightmare scenario is Russia and China working together.
Right.
But that nightmare has actually become a reality because that's what they've been doing.
Yep.
So now this has been provocated a lot when, since Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, and then they put all the sanctions on Russia and whatnot, trying to bankrupt Russia, thinking that they would put all these sanctions on them, and that was what was going to work, but it didn't, because they relied on China. So China started buying a lot of their stuff. North Korea started buying a lot of their stuff. You know what I mean? Especially dealing with the oil, natural gas, and stuff like that. So it was able to, what they thought they were sanctioning on one end, they wasn't, because they had another pipeline out to be able to still make money. Now, mind you, Russia ain't rich by far. You know what I mean? Now, you got the oligarchs that has plenty of money. Putin has plenty of money. The actual people itself, no.
Right.
Which is, which at the end of the day, just like any country, it's always the people that suffers for this. You know what I mean? Because a lot of this stuff that's going on right now is strictly a money thing. That's what all it's about: money, resources. Um, the thing dealing in Venezuela, we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But you had the Greenland situation. Then you had Canada wanting to make Canada 51st state and all that garbage. We was talking about dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on over in Africa right now? All of this stuff boils down to one thing: resources.
Yeah.
And whoever controls the resources controls everything. And that's what this fight is about. You know what I mean? And we talked about this a while ago when we said that the end game is whether us as a people want a war, it's going to happen. Whether we want it to happen or not, it's going to happen. And it's going to happen for those reasons, because they want to control the resources. And being the fact that you got, like what Mike was talking about a little bit ago about the UN not really being relevant, which is true. But when you think about it, the BRICS nations is outnumbering the UN, both in number of countries and GDP. So that group that's in the UN right now, they sticking together more than ever because they have no choice. You know what I mean? Because if they break off, they shit. You know what I mean? Because you got all these other countries coming in left and right. You know what I mean? Now, and a lot of the ones that were actual allies with the U.S., take like United Emirates, Saudi Arabia. They didn't jump ship quick trying to go over the BRICS. You know what I mean? They're not fully in yet, but they did actually show up, and they did actually put in to actually join BRICS. So you got a lot of these countries that's jumping ship, switching over to China. You know what I mean? And then even some of our quote quote allies dealing with these tariffs and the other stuff that's going on is actually making deals with these countries as well.
Yeah, back behind our back. Right.
Right. So with some it's some two-faced, it's some backstabbing stuff. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that's going on right now that we don't know about. There's a lot of discussions that's in private rooms and that we would never hear about.
Yep.
I mean,
Secret handshakes, man.
Right. But it's a lot of stuff that's going on. And the end result is that, you know, we will find out late when it's already happening.
Facts.
Collateral damage. That's what we are. What's your take on this one, Aaron? China and Russia alliance.
I agree with 100% what you're saying. And in the last, I think it was the last show, we talked about where China told Russia that they're not going to open a front with Taiwan until Russia attacks NATO and opens a front first. So they have a mutual protection thing signed with each other, but China don't want to get left out on the cliff the way Iran left Hamas out on the cliff, letting Hamas start that war and then not backing them like they promised. So if Russia makes a move on NATO, China's automatically going to make a move on Taiwan. So that puts us on two fronts right away. And our economy, in my opinion, is not in a position to be able to afford that right now. We've made it clear to NATO that they were to increase their weapons spending because they're going to have to deal with Russia for a minute while we're busy dealing with China in the Pacific Ocean. And then we could come back in and render more assistance. But what we got over there is all they're going to get for right now. They're going to have to stand on their own and hold for a minute. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, China is definitely a scary entity, whether it be financial or their influence around the world and what side they prescribe to, right? Because, you know, we look at something like Russia, obviously, what's against them, NATO and all this, the Western ideology and stuff. And then you've got, Russia that's buying drones right now to fuck up Ukraine from Iran. You know what I mean? That's where they buy that shit from, and it's very interesting once you realize how it all correlates, and the ideologies that go behind it as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I want to add one thing here too. That's another reason why we cannot let China take Taiwan. Taiwan is the world's leading nation on building computer chips for weapon systems, computers, anything that transistors, whatever. They're leading the world in that. And any nation that's going to lead the world into the future has to be leading in both energy and technology. That's the keys that the nation's going to need. If we let China take Taiwan, they would be unstoppable at that point. We cannot allow that to happen. So right now, like you said earlier, resources, which is energy, and also technology, that's going to be the key. We want to still be at the top of the rung. We got to be leading the world on that. We got to be controlling or in partnerships with nations that has key resources that we can use to maintain our position in the world. I'll stop there.
Okay, so the question I'm asking is, so do you think that the U.S. is prepared for a two-front conflict against Russia and China? Now, mind you, it's not really a two-front conflict because you got that going on, but then you also got to think we got people in Israel right now. You got people in Iran right now.
Mm-hmm.
You got carrier fleet in Venezuela right now.
Yes.
So that's three more, other than people in the South China, our forces in the South China Sea watching over Taiwan, and the troops in the NATO countries looking after Ukraine. So we're stretched thin. What's your take on it?
Well, you left one out, and that's North Koreans. Don't ignore them.
Oh yeah.
Right now, they've been making provocations against the South, and they've also been making provocations against Japan. So right now, we don't know where the front will be. Will it be against South Korea or will it be against Japan? So we're not sure on that. But a war with Iran is almost going to have to be sooner or later, because if we want to surround Russia, we got to have that southern flank, and Iran is a southern flank. And if we can get Iran out of there, we can get in there and control much of the Middle East oil. I don't know if everybody remember the oil embargo back in the early 70s, 72, where they tried to blackmail the United States, and we had to give in to a 50-cent increase on gasoline, which I didn't think was that much, but they was almost ready to go to war over it. And then after that, we destabilized every government that was involved in that blackmail. And most of those countries aren't even stable anymore. You look at Syria, you look at Libya, failed states. Our Iraq is gone. I mean, a lot of people that made up OPEC don't even hardly exist anymore as a major power.
No kidding.
Because we got our revenge. And again, Iran right now is strategic. We take them out, we got Russia's southern flank, and Russia's surrounded on three sides at that point. And that's our current technology. I mean, our current war strategy is surround and contain. But I'll stop there.
I agree 100%, Aaron. Yep. You guys are on top of it.
We've been stretched thin for a while.
Right.
And that was
no
that was
kidding.
one of the things that we had talked about before. Now, is the U.S. military the best there is in this world? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
If we were dealing with a one-on-one fight. But if you stretched out the way we stretched out, you're not dealing with the full force of the U.S. military. You're dealing with thirds.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then by the time that you pull forces from one area, taking them to another area, you're exposing what you had covered there, which would in turn give them more reason to start something there.
Right.
Because you everywhere. You know what I mean? That was always our biggest thing, was that we was running around playing the police of the world. Mind you, we got the firepower and the troops and the know-how to pull it off. Absolutely. But it would be very, very difficult being stretched out the way we stretched out right now. And we're stretched very, very thin right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we was talking about Russia and China. So now we're gonna dip over into this Venezuela, South America thing. Okay, so in Venezuela that has in the world. So Venezuela holds like 300 billion barrels, more than Saudi Arabia. Now, with the U.S. policy, they've had decades of sanctions, regime changes, coup attempts, political isolation, and Washington supports opposition leaders, but with limited success. Now you got Russia and China's role in this because both have invested heavily because Russia provided military hardware and China has added billions in oil for loan deals. Now their location, where Venezuela is just a 3-hour flight time from Miami, so it was close enough to bring up any kind of U.S. security concerns. You're only 3 hours away. Now the U.S. frames involvement is prompting democracy. They're saying that they're doing what they're doing there after cartel leaders and trying to stop the drugs from coming over into the States. But it also leads you to think like, okay, if that was the case, why is Russia and China bringing tanks, weapon systems, subs, destroyers to that area for the cartel? Makes no sense. So what's your take on that, Aaron?
I think you're hitting on it 100%. I mean, it's a great cover story. I do think that they are trying to take out the drugs to a certain point, but to get control of the oil and to probably decapitate the leadership in Venezuela will be the end result, and put someone in there that's more friendly to the West. They can't have missiles that can reach us, which China has provided Venezuela with, sitting right off our damn coast. That's just not acceptable. And to get control of that oil is going to be key. And if they control that whole region, they can stop any drug shipments or anything from coming over here. That's reason. And China wants that oil so badly, they've already set up 2 oil wells down there. One's an offshore platform, and they're sent their Navy carrier task group down there to protect their interests, because Venezuela signed an agreement with them to give them a certain amount of oil that they can bring up out of the ground themselves. So Russia and China both wants that oil, and they're going to put up a fight to try to get it. But that also, again, spreads us even thinner, because it opens up a new front that we have to move troops into to protect our southern border, which will probably take a priority over somewhere overseas. And that's going to be bad. And like I said earlier, with Iran, it's in Israel's best interest to see Iran gone. So they will provide us whatever we need to help make that happen. But Venezuela right now is going to be a proxy zone, basically. And it's going to burn up our supplies. Our reserves are not endless. And our manufacturing has moved out of this country. China is the #1 manufacturer in the world. There's nobody that can out-manufacture China on weapons or anything. So people need to understand that. And we're not manufacturing stuff now. We are building a computer chip thing. We're building a drone thing here in the United States, factories, but they won't be online until probably 2028 or 2030, which is too little too late. So Man, we're going
I
to be
agree.
spread so thin, and we're seeing how much ammunition that we supplied Ukraine. That's running our supplies low. We already know that our gas reserves are half of what they're supposed to be here in this country. Our oil reserves are.
Mhm.
So man, they can drain us fast, have us fight on 5 or 6 daggone fronts.
Yeah, I
But
agree. Look at how Israel kind of got divided with the IDF. I think it was really strategic in the way that they, we had Hezbollah attacking northern Israel, right? At the exact same time, Hamas is doing their ordeal down below, down south, and you see how much you split that and how much weaker you already become by 100%, right? So imagine on a way bigger front, the whole world. That's where we're stretched thin, the whole world. Um, so imagine on something that is so simple and so small over there in the Middle East and how devastating it can be to attack just from two different fronts right there and how it affected them. Look at how many people are tied up, like AB was saying, about a third kind of thing. And if any one of these pop off, essentially that is where World War III comes in, because everyone's going to be interlinked, So these guys, they're definitely thinking ahead by not just doing and acting. They have to realize, okay, the geopolitics behind who they're attacking and who they're affiliated with, all this shit before they even fucking do it. They really have to think it out, because they know this could strike World War III right now.
Right. I mean, it seems like a big game of chicken.
Yes.
Because if you think about it, okay, so U.S. goes into Venezuela. They make up the excuse where they're trying to get the drug cartels. Mind you, they done hit a couple ships, but we ain't seen no drugs, and we ain't seen nothing that they done got out of that, other than the fact they showing videos of blown up skiffs going across the water. But you got Russia and China show up. Okay. You got Iran that has signed agreements with Russia and China. So if you messing with Iran, you got to deal with Russia and China.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing dealing with North Korea. The North Korea, South Korea deal. You're still dealing with Russia and China. So it's like everywhere that you move in different places of the world, you still dealing with the same three people, same three groups: U.S., Russia, China. Same three. You know what I mean? Now, I'm just speaking on a strategic point here. This is just my opinion. Okay. I think that it has already been talked about, the face-off between each group, right? The thing with Russia is that between the two, Russia is more powerful because they have more nukes. But if you in an ongoing war, you losing troops by the day. So, yes, you may have 5,000 nuclear warheads, but your troop presence and your equipment is dropping rapidly by the day. So if we keep this war going over here, then and you keep fighting it, just like you said before, you losing 8,000 people a week. Okay. You losing 8,000 people a week. Times that by past, let's see, how long has this been going on? 2 years, 2.5 years? You know what I mean? You've lost millions of people.
Are you talking about Russia-Ukraine conflict specific? Oh yeah, they've already passed 3 years.
Right. So okay, so you think about how many people, how many soldiers they've lost.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal amount. Yeah.
5 to 8,000 a week.
Right. So as long as you are steady depleting soldiers on this end, other than the fact that you have nuclear capability, but your people on the ground, your tanks, planes, etc., you steady losing. You losing people. Now you may, you know what I mean? Like they was talking about the other day of how much traction they've made for the past couple of months. And I think they said they only gained like maybe 1%, but they still fighting. You know what I mean? This was a fight that they said when it first started out was only going to take about 3 weeks, going on 3 years. They still fighting. You know what I mean? Now you've lost millions of lives during that time. You know what I mean? So even if Russia is sending troops to different places, they're stretched too, because they losing a lot of them on this end.
Oh yeah, they're shitting bricks trying to keep up.
Right, they losing a lot of them on that end. You know what I mean? Now China does have a lot of forces. They do have a lot of troops, but they haven't been tested.
They have no real world, you know. Yeah,
they have no war experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you know, like they keep pushing this agenda that they have the biggest navy or whatever. Yes, you do have more ships, but you got to think about the type of ships that they have.
Right, correct. Our aircraft carriers are the best.
Right, they're not popping out carriers once a year. I mean, carriers take a long ass time to build. Now, you can, you know, build small, you know, frigates, cruisers, stuff like that. Those are smaller ships that you can put together and get out there. Now, even with them, it still takes time. So if you popping them out as quick as they say that they're popping them out, trust and believe they're not going to be a much count. Especially if they talk about the way that they were actually pushing out, what they say, 25 to 50 a year. Bullshit.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, if anytime these things are being made, everyone kind of on a world geopolitical level, they know it's happening. You can't just like print out a aircraft carrier, for instance. If you start building one of them, oh, trust me, the world knows. The world knows. The average citizen may not, you know, but the governments absolutely know what's going on. You can't just print these things out.
Right. Go ahead, Eric.
I got an opposing viewpoint. And I'm going to use World War II as an example. We basically won that war, the Allies did, because we were able to outproduce the Germans. I'll use a tank, for example, the German Tiger tank. Heavy armored. Most of the time, you could only take it out by shooting it from the rear because most shells bounced off of it. But it was with German engineering, it was so difficult to manufacture. They was only able to make so many during the whole war versus the Russians, who was putting out T-34s like they was spitting spitballs, and the United States putting out Sherman tanks, which they called them Bunsen burners. Whenever a German tank shot it, it would explode in flames. But there were so many of them that they just overwhelmed the manufacturing ability, even in airplanes. Our bombers, even though they was being shot down in high numbers, we were able to manufacture so many that eventually we bombed Germany's manufacturing ability out of existence. And China not only has the largest navy, they have the largest military in the world, period. You look at Russia, they have a large number. Of Russia against Ukraine in asymmetric warfare, you kill one of mine, I kill one of yours. Ukraine's whole entire population would be gone long before a third of Russia's population decreases. The United States has 333 million people. That counts women and children. China has 1.4 or 1.5 plus billion people. In asymmetric warfare, you kill one of mine, I kill one of yours, our entire nation would be wasted before you even got a third away through the Chinese population. It's going to come down to numbers and manufacturing ability and technology in the end. And we'll have our work cut out for us here. This isn't going to be an easy thing. And knowing that, could I go a little deeper with something?
Go ahead.
Okay. Knowing that Russia said that if we give them the Tomahawks, that they're going to hurt the United States. Now, I don't know if you guys remember the attack that was averted in New York City, where they found the servers in that one apartment that was to overload the phone system. Okay, that was literally an AI attack designed to overload all the phone systems, including the 911. It was going to put out 30 million calls per minute, and the cell towers would shut down at that point. So would the 911 system. Now, right now, Homeland Security, um, FBI, CIA, everybody is saying that there's an attack on New York imminent, but we don't know who the attacker is going to be. Is it Iranian proxies? Is it Russian? Right now, we know for a fact that there's Iranian people over here, there's Russian, these are all military age males, there's Chinese, there's Al Qaeda. We
Yeah.
know that there's cartel members. Okay. Now, if that when that AI attack starts, cops and first responders are going to be running around chasing false calls until the system becomes overloaded and goes down. Uh, it is believed that once they take the communications down, that there will be a coordinated attack on that city that's going to happen right after that. Again, will it be bombings, will it be terrorists, will it be a combination? But I have seen where the number of first responder uniforms that are being purchased right now, and they don't know if it's Al Qaeda, if it's Russians, if it's Chinese, if it's cartel members, but somebody's buying up a bunch of first responder uniforms in New York City. Some of them are used, some of them are secondhand, but they're buying them. So when the attack occurs, you think that these are police, you think these are firemen, you think that these are first responders or medical doctors or whatever, and they're going to be terrorists attacking after they bring the phone system down. Now, is this what Russia's referring to, that they're going to hurt us, that they have the ability? China has the same ability. We don't know who the attackers are going to be yet, but we do know they exist inside this country. And then who do we go after if we don't know who the target is, if we can't define the target? So things is going to get pretty sporty here. And people need to wake up that we're not safe over here no more. We may be fighting a front line right here inside this country. And then with the country so split due to the media splitting us up over nonsense and race, religion, politics, cultures, church. I mean, this is ridiculous. We need to be sticking together right now because things is about to get serious. And we're going to need each other working together as a community if we're going to survive this. But I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're going to talk about the economic war beneath all of this.
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay, so you think about this. Now, since World War II, the U.S. dollar has been the global reserve currency. This allows the U.S. to print money, borrow cheap, and sanction as they see fit. Now you got the BRICS nations, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And then they have new members like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Egypt that are developing systems to bypass the dollar in trade. So oil historically was priced in dollars. That's where the whole petrodollar system came from.
Mhm.
That's right.
Now the deals are happening in yen, rubles, and rupees. So sanctioning Russia pushed it into a strengthening ties with China, and it also promoted alternatives to the dollar, which is a lot of stuff that we're facing now, which is why the
Easy
dollar has
workarounds.
dropped the way it has dropped since the petrodollar agreement ended back in June of 24. Now, if this dollar dominance erodes, the U.S. could see it as a direct threat for its survival. And the history shows that empires go to war when the currency starts to collapse, which is one of the things we've been talking about a while ago. This was one of the reasons why they would go to war, is if that dollar started losing its force around the world.
Well, that very week, we actually report when we did the Diamond Effect that week. We reported on exactly that, you know. So we were right on top of the game. You can go back in the video log and look at that for anybody that's new here.
Mm-hmm. Now you have mainstream media, for instance. Now they've been treating Ukraine, Taiwan, Venezuela, Africa, Iran, and Israel. They've been treating it all as separate stories. It rarely connects them as part of a larger pattern. So you have these companies that rely on these defense contractors and the banks and the investors that all profit from these wars, from these conflicts, that influences what gets downplayed, what gets ignored, and what actually gets put out for people to know about, which is very little. They'll put it out, but they'll put very few details in it. And unless you take the time to go in and do the proper research.
Yeah, it's buried in page 300, Yeah, don't worry about it. You're not
right. You're not going to find out what you need to find out.
No.
So the stories get spun as democracy versus dictatorships instead of resource control, energy battles, currency battles, or geopolitical strategies. If the public doesn't see the actual connections, they won't resist the conflict. So what's going on right now, you have people that's distracted, divided, like Aaron said, and unprepared for the reality that these crises are linked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a political step towards the war that we've been talking about all year. Now, it's funny because a lot of this stuff that we're talking about now were theories that we brought up at the beginning of the year as to what we thought was going to happen. If you go back and watch some of the older shows that we did back January, February, March, we talked about this very thing, as in what could go on, who was going to take sides, who was going to do what. And now we're looking into October and we see that a lot of this stuff that we talked about back in, November, December, January, February is actually taking place right now.
That's right.
But we're getting hit with the bullshit. And what I mean by that is instead of us paying attention to what really matters, what's really important, right now it's a division war here in the U.S. because they're keeping you divided and they're keeping you distracted on bullshit. So you're not paying attention to what's really going on.
That's right.
Now, if something really does happen here, you doomed. And the reason why is because there is no connectivity within us as a people.
You're right.
None. And a house divided would never stand.
That's right.
Now, a lot of people, I've watched a lot of stuff throughout the years and they talk about, like in the Bible, how it talked about how the United States was never mentioned in the Bible, because, basically the U.S. was Babylon. And Babylon fell. And why did Babylon fall? Various reasons. But I bet you one of those reasons is because you were so worried about each other and you wasn't paying attention to the real enemy that's sitting here looking at this. Because you think we're not the only ones with TVs. They see this. I had a guy to come in the shop yesterday from Europe. And he said, y'all got a real mess over here. I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, because we watch the news in Europe and we laugh at y'all because of what y'all doing over here. He said, because you have, for this country to be as big as it is and to have the opportunities that y'all have over here, y'all worried about who lives next door to you, as opposed to who's sitting here watching you.
That is true, but they're not one to talk. I'm just saying.
Even when you think about that, if you got just having somebody from the outside who doesn't live in the U.S. it just came to
True.
visit, and
True.
this was and this was his thought. You know what I mean? So you thinking, okay, over there, this is what they're thinking, that we're not unified, that we're divided, and we are. Let's just keep it 100. We are. And what we're divided about and distracted on is bullshit. But we need to really pay attention to what's going on outside of these borders. We need to pay attention to what's really going on in Venezuela, what's really going on in Israel, what's really going on in Iran, Taiwan, South Korea, North Korea, Philippines, Japan, China, Ukraine, Poland, the Baltic states. This is what we really need to pay attention to, because we don't really need somebody to put boots on the ground to do what they need to do here. It's a nice little weapon called a what is it, Aaron?
What's that?
What's a nice little weapon that they can drop to just shut down everything?
Oh, electromagnetic pulse weapon. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't even have to hit the ground. It can go off 25 miles up and put you back in the Stone Age. Then you can put boots on the ground and take over whatever you want to take over, because everybody wondering why their iPhone ain't coming on and why their TV won't come on, not realizing that you got actual enemies that's been here. The FBI notice here, that just been sitting here watching them all these years and never got them out of here. You know what I mean? So if that was talking about the whole immigration thing, those should have been the ones that you first got up out of here. The ones that you knew had these cells around, those should have been the first ones that you got out of here. But we didn't. We're watching. So my advice to everyone is pay attention to what really counts. Pay attention to what's going on over here, because what's going on over there is eventually going to impact you here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I want to back up what you're saying. I want to go back to OPEC, what I was saying earlier. Not only did we destabilize the countries, but we turned those countries that were unified against one another, and then we injected so much propaganda into them that we turned the populations of each country against its leadership, and then we funded the rebels. So people need to understand propaganda is a powerful tool, and it's being used on us all the time. And as Malcolm X said, you can't be going for the okie doke. You're being hoodwinked. I mean, pay attention, do your research. Don't be scared to look things up. They're not hiding it no more. The information's out there. If I can find it, anybody can find it. Take time and look and educate yourself, and you'll be surprised of what you learn. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, we're sitting at 108, so we're gonna shut it down for the evening.
Can I mention one other thing before you go? Because you wanted to talk about Africa, and I do want to mention that, because that Africa does not get the same press as Europe or, say, the Middle East does. In fact, you don't hardly see anything out of it. France and Britain economy are both taking hits right now because the African nations are becoming self-reliant and are not paying resources to Europe no more. So their economies are being hit. Energy and tech is going to be the key, and that stands a chance to come out of there. Now, since France was recently expelled, a proxy zone is formed. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso have formed a military alliance against Western influence. And they're looking to Russia for support. The whole Sahara region right now is forming a proxy zone, which is emerging, where local conflicts can happen and can evolve into something that could be much larger, especially knowing that Russia and China has an interest in the areas. The stakes are high, and the world needs to pay attention before it's too late. I mean, China, they've moved in making large loans to a lot of those nations. And when those nations can't pay back, they're taking land, airports, and resources. And China is considering colonizing certain nations of Africa at over 300 million citizens and companies. And if you look at, you say 300 million, there's only 333 million US citizens. You're talking about taking the entire US population and putting it into the nations of Africa. And the only way you could do that is if you move the indigenous people out of the area or you kill them off with your military. But they're going to have to be moved in order for you to bring in that size of a population. And like I said, it don't get the press, but there's a lot of resources there, and it's going to be a proxy war, in my opinion, that's going to start forming there between rebels that we'll fund and governments that China and Russia is going to fund. But I'll stop there.
Well, you know, the president of Burkina Faso, you know, they've tried to kill him like 20 times.
I didn't know
He's had 20 assassination attempts. He's
Okay.
actually he's actually came in from the military.
Okay.
But he was the one that started getting the French out of there, because they had the gold mines over there, and they were given the country very little, and they were just taking loads and loads and loads of gold out of there. It was only giving the country very little. So he kicked everybody from France up out of there. They kept all the gold, and then took the gold and basically paid off all their debts and started rebuilding in that country. You know what I mean? So yeah, France and Britain did take a hit off of there because they kicked their asses up out of there. You know what I mean? Now China is trying to put their nose over in there, because they come over before all this took place. They were over there, you know, wanting to build ports and railroads and mining projects and stuff like that. And then they made some outlandish deals over there, like they had had the land for 99 years, and you know what I mean, some old crazy stuff like that. They were making these outlandish deals with them, and giving these countries money with like ridiculous payback terms and stuff like that. But Africa as a continent has every resource that you need in that one continent.
Yeah.
Everything.
True.
If those countries inside that continent actually united and actually put the effort into, you know, going in and gathering all these resources and building these mines and refineries and different companies, stuff like that for themselves, they wouldn't need nobody, because they held everything. They got it all on their own. They don't need to export for nothing. They got it. But that's not in this conversation. So that's something else that we'll talk about later on. But like I said, once again, I thank you all for coming out every Wednesday. Sit here and listen to us and drop your feedback in the chat. Much love to you. Like, follow, share, subscribe, pass this on to other people, man. This is what we do every week. We put this information out, hoping that it hit the right ears and that you be more proactive in what you're doing, not only for yourself, but for your family. So until then, I'll see you in 7 days. Much love and respect to everyone. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, right now, this is not a time for somebody to stick their head in the sand or go around with their day not paying attention to what's going on and thinking that, well, the government will handle it, I don't have to worry about it. You're going to feel everything at this point. Be stocking supplies, be stocking assets to weather the economic and political storms and disasters that's going to start to take place, and even the shortages. So when these wars break off, shipping is not going to be coming over here. And if you want to have something, you better be stocking it now. and getting ahead of the game so you're not dependent. Because like I said, when that situation in New York that they believe is going to be an attack, they're going to bring down Wall Street. That's going to cripple a lot of the banks. A lot of businesses will go under. And then with those people being there, the phone system coming down means you can't call for help. You can't call your relative or your brother or sister or your dad up and say, can you come help me? I'm scared or I need help. You are on your own when that communication box goes down. So be aware of that. Put things in place. Let people know that if something happens and communications go down, we're all meeting up at grandma's house. We have a rally point that we're all going to hook up at, and everybody's going to bring something to the party. Somebody might bring water. Somebody might bring canned goods. Somebody might bring a generator with gasoline. You can't come to the party and not bring something.
That's a proper muster list.
Right.
That's correct.
You know what, Aaron? Before you go off, tell them about the gold and silver prices now.
Okay,
Right.
well, gold today finished at $4,035.49, and silver finished at $49.15. And they believe that by Black Friday, it will be above $50. And they're
And when we first
predicting
started talking about buying gold and silver, what was silver priced at?
$22.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And gold was back around 2,000.
It makes
Right.
me regret not buying then, Yeah.
But
Slap
you
it in my
don't-
face, gentlemen.
You don't see no mainstream media telling you to go out and buy gold and silver because it's outperforming the stock market or anything like that. It's like it's a damn secret or something. They're not telling nobody to go out and acquire real assets.
True.
Mhm.
Well, with
Exactly.
that being said, I can't thank these guys enough for the amount that information that you guys go into each week. This is exactly what needs to happen. And one of the things I was going to say at the very end here is like, okay, everyone's talking about what's happening around geopolitically. What can you do for yourself? Okay, yeah, you can't help what your nation and government do, but you absolutely can look out for you and your own family, man. And I highly, I encourage everybody to get prepared, in the way of just, basic essentials, food, things that Aaron actually specializes in. He actually sells like all these different packs that are ready for bug out bags and all these kind of awesome things. And I really do look at not only on that level, but I look at a trading level, whether that be gold or any of these different things like silver and stuff. But I just tell everybody, just get prepared a little bit, start being in that mindset of not so maybe willing to spend your money and just kind of recklessly, but kind of look at it and go, wow, I need to be doing something a little smarter than this right now. Right. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I can't thank everyone enough. And Chris Lestrange, she also sent a huge raid over to us. I really appreciate you, Chris. Thank you for the love to the show. Make sure you guys stick around, though. We're going to be sending you guys off on my side to our buddy Grid One Motorsports. Stick around for the raid on that side. Until then, next week we will be back for more of the madness, man. This is what we do. So very much appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys here in 7 days. Much love, honor, respect, everybody.
We don't worry about nothing else. We control what we can't control, but we prepare to be dominant.
On a little bit better. Zayden Moore, though, can field it at the 45 and cut upfield. A great return here by number 1 as he is going to take it all the way in.
Sometimes you got to know what you know. They're going to call it cockiness. They're going to call it arrogance, but you're going to call it confidence. Do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurity.